Chelsea Poe, and today I'm here with seven-time award-nominated performer Cassie Cummings. Welcome to the show, Cassie.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you. I feel like we just kind of came across each other in like the world of trans porn on Twitter.
It, it's amazing who you can find when you're not looking for someone in particular. You just open yourself up and you can run into a lot of interesting folks.
Yeah, for sure. So I've seen your work. How recently have you joined the industry? Because I feel like I'm a seasoned veteran. I've been in this industry for 10 years now, which is like 30 years in regular years.
Sure. I actually just began my third year in the
Oh my
industry.
God.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. The first 2 years, I feel like I've experienced the highs and the lows that the
Yeah.
porn industry has to offer. So hopefully the third year is just more of like a nice, easy constant for me.
Yeah, they say 2 years is the average porn lifespan. So you're
Okay.
above the average
Whew.
now. I feel like that's the point where you see like, oh wow, some really great things and some really times where you probably wanted to quit, I would assume.
I'd be lying if I said the thought didn't cross my mind. It can be hard sometimes.
For sure. I definitely had that probably like 2 years in where I was like, I want to quit. And then it was like, oh, you still have one shoot left. Do you want to do that shoot? I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do one last shoot. And then the shoot
Yeah.
was amazing. I'm like, okay, I'm in porn for life again.
And that's really what happens. Like I get onto a set and then I suddenly get that feeling like, oh my God, I'm making a movie.
Hmm.
And it's the coolest thing in the world. And and then I'm like, okay, I gotta go make more. And I'm re-energized again. And it's this cycle of like, God damn, I gotta put makeup on lashes today, really?
That's stuff's so hard. I think just to like I think especially in your first year, you're like the shiny new thing that so many
Mm.
people are like, oh my God, do you know where your career can go and all this stuff?
The first year is a lot of what ifs, and you're always I feel like even when you're failing, you're still moving forward somehow.
Hmm.
That
For
first year
sure.
is something special.
Yeah, so where are you from? Are you from like a porn area? Are you from LA or Vegas
Well,
originally?
no, I am living in Vegas currently. But no, I grew up in the US Midwest in St.
Oh,
Louis.
same. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm from Michigan, so same
Okay.
Midwestern vibe.
Yeah, you probably can imagine what life was like. Um, but since living in St. Louis, I've lived on the East Coast, I live in the South, I've now gone to the West Coast and have settled in Las Vegas, though. I don't imagine living here super long term, but that's where I am now, and it's a really great place to shoot porn, I'll tell you that.
So if it was 3 years ago you started doing porn, that was like in
Yes.
the middle of the pandemic. What kind of initiated that? Because
Yeah. Well, I lost my job due to COVID. And essentially was just looking for something else to do. Um, and it, my ex-wife was a fetish performer.
okay.
And so I had seen how that side of the industry worked from behind the scenes. And having supported her and having done like some assistant PA type stuff, I got an idea of what it could take. And
Hmm.
then when I moved west, I started dating Sydney Screams,
Okay.
and Sydney's a long-term porn industry veteran as well. I think they're up to 15 years now, 16 years in the
Yeah,
industry now.
that's a minute.
And yeah, it's yeah. So having had that experience and now spending time with Sydney and seeing how they work and seeing like the hardcore side mixed in with the fetish stuff, like I was feeling pretty confident that this was something that I could definitely tackle. And at that point, I think I was a year into my transition, and so like I had a lot of that body euphoria going for
Yeah,
me. And
for
so I
sure. Where
was
you're
ready
like,
to show off. I wanted everyone to see my progress, and it was just kind of a perfect storm.
Yeah, I feel like that's such a moment when you're like, oh my God, sex makes sense now. I get it,
Yeah, exactly. Sex
Where like
makes
before.
sense. Yeah. Yeah.
How old were you when you joined the industry? How old are you now?
So I am 35.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I was 32 when I joined.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
31 now.
Oh, nice. Well, you don't look 31. You look considerably younger.
That's good to hear. I feel like being in this industry for 10 years, I'm just like, I feel internally 45 right now, where I feel like I should be like chain smoking at a slot machine or something.
I'm still fighting off the MILF castings. So I
I
feel I
also
feel
feel
like
like
I'm doing
being
pretty good.
I feel like being trans, we're also put into this like whole nother thing where like MILF isn't
Hmm.
until we're like 40s. It's really strange because they're like, there can't be trans women in their 20s. They either think of us as like being a teenager and playing student roles and
Yep.
shit,
Yep.
or you're like a 45-year-old MILF, and there's like no in between.
I, I'll tell you what, I was filming a lot for trans roommates the first and second year of
Hmm.
my of being in the industry, and they continually tweeted out my scenes with hashtag teen on them, and I'm in my 30s. It was the strangest thing, but I guess it works. I don't know.
It's weird. I had an audition for some mainstream thing a few years ago, and they're like, "You're gonna play a high schooler," and I'm like, "I'm 29." I'm like, "You still think that can work?"
How is that different than Hollywood though? Because like I'll
Yeah.
tell you what, they find some folks who are definitely not teenagers to play teenagers
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. I was like, well, I guess that's affirming about age and
Yeah.
gender and stuff.
Estrogen is a hell of a drug. That's all I'm
It
gonna say.
really is. So what made you move to Vegas? Was that just kind of like the logical decision of like that's where all of porn kind of is right now?
Well, that's where Sydney was. And
Mm.
I just packed up a U-Haul and went to live with my partner.
That's some lesbian ass shit right there.
Isn't it? Yeah. We definitely fit the stereotypes.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like most lesbian couples kind of fit into that stereotype.
Yeah.
Anything where it like takes more than a year to move in, it's like, wow, you guys really waited.
So yeah. But it just happened to be this is just where Sydney was. And so that's how I ended up there.
So did you just kind of dive into the whole content trade thing that's thriving in Vegas?
Yeah. So Sydney's background is fetish work.
Hmm.
And so when I first began, I was doing a lot more fetish than I was hardcore. And then also filming a lot of content trade with other fetish performers. And like doing just off the wall fetishes, like anything that I could film, I filmed. Just because I don't know what folks want to see from me at
Yeah,
that
people are
point,
into all sorts of shit too.
you know,
Like,
it, and sometimes like you want to see a certain person film like giantess
yeah.
or foot stuff or blueberry content, like
Wait, what's blueberry content?
so um imagine like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, right? And
That's what
Violet
I was thinking.
Beauregard,
Yeah.
yep, she's chewing the bubble gum and then she blows up to be a blueberry and they roll her off screen. It's exactly that. I filmed a video where I was doing this like scientific experiment thing and they like gave me a drink to taste test and it was tinted blue. And I drank it and I was like, I'm getting a hint of blueberry or whatever. And then like the camera would pan and like cut back to me and I'd have a little bit of blue on my nose and the blue would spread to my face. And then all of a sudden I started inflating. And by the end of it, I was a big round inflated blueberry. And
I
they were gonna juice me.
I'm so genuinely glad that trans women we can do all this weird shit in porn now. Because when I first started, it was literally like you need to masturbate and do this
Yeah.
for this long, then you suck this dildo for this long. Now,
Yeah.
like, there's so many weird things trans women can make money off of in porn, and it makes me so fucking happy.
I really do think that there's a big field for us to get more into the fetish leaning
Yeah.
presentations because, like you said, it's kind of stale when all you do is you suck on a dildo and you masturbate. Like when you've seen the 10th white blonde trans girl jacking off
Wait,
for
with A cups, yeah.
right, yeah, like we kind of all just blend together. And so like it's
Yeah,
important for
it's
me to stand
true.
out by doing something different, something that the next blonde trans girl is not doing.
That's so true. There's just so many. I mean, it's like almost a trope at this point. I feel like every young trans girl in her 20s looks exactly the same and gets thrown into porn. And it like takes years for them to like evolve into what they become.
Right, yeah, yeah, there's definitely, and I've felt it, and maybe you feel it at where you're at in your career, but like I feel it at year 3. I don't want to be I don't want to be the cookie cutter performer that exists for the 5 minutes you're jacking off and then you forget about me when you're done.
For sure.
um
Yeah,
i I want you to remember me, and to do that I need to find my own personality, my own presentation.
yeah, I think for me, like when I came in, I wasn't influenced by most other trans porn at the time. Like
Hmm.
the shit that got me into porn was like stuff like Sasha Grey or Stoya,
Sure, okay.
where I was like going from like that whole alt world. So when I like came into porn and I was getting cast for mainstream trans sites, I was like, I don't understand this. Why does anyone want to watch this? Like just genuinely be like, wait, you're faking cum shots?
Yeah,
What's the point of this?
yeah. Well, they don't want to. We exist as sort of a fantasy, right? They
Yeah,
don't
for
want to
sure.
understand the logistics of how estrogen has changed my body to the point where I can't produce a cum shot anymore. Like they don't want to hear that.
No, they
They
want
they want me to fill up a condom like it's a water balloon.
that's too fucking real. So like when you came into this industry, were there any performers or types of porn that really influenced you to get in?
Well, like I mentioned, my background was a bit more fetish, so
Hmm.
I'm looking at like foot content, and well, my partner's a BBW, so I've been filming a lot more with plus size performers,
Yeah.
and that's really worked out for me. Um, I I would say like if I was inspired and trying to like make content that matched someone else, like I really like Hayden Cross's work.
Oh
Um,
hell yeah.
I don't pretend to be on the same level as her, and like it'll take me probably 20 years to get to where she is, but like I really like that cinematic draw, that shows porn can be entertaining even when it's not just sex. Like
I
there can
feel
be scenarios and dramatic lighting and all that.
I feel like porn's just at a genuinely good place right now. Like the porn that is like the mainstream porn that's winning awards and shit, it's so there's so much cinematography in it now.
Yes.
And it's just like evolved so much in the last like 5 to 6 years where I feel like even when I got into it, you still saw all these like I'm not trying to be mean, but like these dumb titles where it's
Yeah.
like Tranny Whackers 5 is up for best
Yes.
or
Yes.
like whatever shit. Like
Tranny whackers.
oh my God. When I first got into this industry, it was so fucking over in your face. And now I'm just like, it's so chill. Were you at AVN a few weeks ago?
Yes, I was.
I felt like there were so many fucking trans people there.
Yeah. So I agree. We
There
were everywhere.
I felt like it was like 20% trans people. And I like literally had through my mind, I'm like, other than like Pride, I don't think I've been around this many trans people before. Like, I think it's just truly amazing how far this industry has come.
Yeah. I mean, Emma winning Transformer of the Year and
Hmm.
having that acceptance speech that she
Yeah.
gave, like that was super powerful.
Hmm.
She ended up winning the Transformer of the Year at XBiz the next weekend, which totally deserved, by the way. And
Yeah.
she gave the exact same acceptance speech there, and it was just as important there as it was at the AVNs the week prior, because we are more than just a niche fetish. We are
Yeah.
profitable. People want to buy our content. The AEBN released the trends for this past year, and trans content was the number 3 most searched for porn
Yep.
metric in the US, like the number 3 in the US was us.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you still just kind of see us as like, well, okay, so it's not as bad as it was when Tranny Whackers 5 was up.
Definitely.
But like you're still seeing a lot of like the transsexual surprise story.
Yeah. Yeah, there's still a little bit of that shit left.
And one of the things that I wanted to combat when I joined was that specific narrative, because when I was coming up and I was watching trans porn, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of slurs. It was a lot of like dangerous storylines.
Extremely.
You get pulled over by the cops, and oh no, they discover that you've got a dick, so now they're gonna fuck you, right? Like,
oh my god, that's just so fucking triggering.
Right, exactly. Like this is like the kind of shit that we're afraid of happening.
Yeah, like literal nightmare shit for trans people. Yeah, I think it's just especially when I got into the industry, I started a petition to remove slurs from porn, and people were fucking upset, obviously. And I think my Midwesternness was like, oh, people will understand. People, they'll be like, oh, we don't want to cause harm to trans women, but obviously they were not cool about that.
No, I did some advisory work with Clips for Sale a year and a half ago about slurred category titles and all that, and I'm just like, look, you can't use these titles. These are slurs. You need to change the name of your categories, and they're like, okay, well, tell us what we should be changing them to, why we can't use these. And I was like, okay, so here's your list, this is my dissertation. And they just finally adjusted some of their categories for us about a month or two ago.
I think it's really great that it's finally changed, and like, porn is, I think, the only place in the world that there's not this debate of trans people can exist there. And I think that's like the really amazing thing, where you don't go to the Grammys or the Oscars or the Olympics and have 20% trans people there.
No, God,
or
no.
Anywhere. Like the AVN is like this only thing that has that. Is pretty remarkable.
Yeah. I want to see more. I want to see. I mean, it's great that Brazzers has filmed I think 4 trans scenes that they've filmed. It's great that they've started to branch out. I'd like to see more of that, more of the mainstream big name studios hiring trans folks to play, not extras, not just side characters, but the main draw.
I think we're definitely going to see more of that. I just think it has changed so much now that trans people can be nominated outside of trans categories too. I think that's really important, because like for me, when I got in, I didn't give a fuck about trans performer of the year, because I'm like, my porn doesn't really fit into that. I'm obviously trans, but like I don't do quote unquote TS porn, which is so like phallocentric based, where I'm like, getting strapped to a St. Andrew's cross and being electrocuted instead, So like being able to get nominated for like BDSM shit has been such a big thing for me, because I'm like, okay, this is like the genre I should be in,
That's super. I mean, yes, because I'll tell you what, I did a St. Andrew's cross with a forced Hitachi orgasm type stuff, and like my panties stayed on the whole time. Like, like it sells really well. And I know that for like you and me, we see how fetish stuff benefits our portfolio. It just, more folks need to, branch out and try their hand, because you're right. Now we're getting somewhere with it.
Yeah.
We're getting somewhere, and it's good to see.
I mean, it's just, I think the scale of how recent all of this stuff is though too. Like
it is,
there wasn't a trans performer of the year or any trans awards until 2004 at AVN.
I am not aware of that. 2004?
Yeah.
Wow. I believe that though.
Or it was either 2004 or 2006. which
Yeah.
it's like that's so recent, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. And gosh, I think back to trans porn during that time too, and it was, God, it was even worse.
And like I feel like all the top girls at the time just pieced the fuck out. Like Bailey J has nothing to do with trans porn anymore because she's like, I don't want to be involved with that.
No, good for her. She's doing what she hopefully wants to do now, because ooh, I can't imagine the kinds of things that folks had to do back then in order to just make the dollar.
Yeah, I mean, even just like the generation before mine in porn, they had to fight to even
Uh-uh.
get trans performers on the stage, you know?
Mm.
So I just feel like seeing this like growth is such a cool thing to be a part of, you know? And now it's to see this next generation like really call this shit out on stage,
Yes.
call out like the passive aggressive shit that happens on the red carpet when my generation was just like, we're here. As long as you don't get misgendered, it's a pretty okay time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and what's funny too is that it's coming at an interesting time in like history, because outside of porn,
Hmm.
trans lives are not great. Like, trans rights is a hot topic issue right now, and it really sucks that we have to just fight for basic rights. But then in the porn industry, we're making these big strides to like finally get somewhere and be respected as actual performers and directors and the talented folks that we are.
I think that's like the really interesting thing that we're in this one field where being trans isn't this defining thing that there's all this outrage, at least anymore. Like a trans film won Grand Reel at AVN last year and no one gave a fuck. No one freaked out.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like, oh wow, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to be in this weird field. I go on a podcast for Outsports, and obviously there's all this like transphobia with sports and stuff where they're like
Hmm.
trans people can't compete. And that me just telling them like, oh yeah, like everyone in porn is fine with trans people and you don't really hear anything about it. And there's like, how can
No.
that be?
You,
Like,
I mean, porn performers are just smarter. I don't know. I don't
yeah,
know
I
what to tell
guess.
you.
I always end up circling around to, I'm like, porn is the one real sport in the world if you
Yeah.
really think about it. I'm like,
I'm an athlete. I can reverse cowgirl for 5+ minutes. I'm an athlete.
I think it is though. Like, I feel like we're somewhere between like figure skaters, pro wrestlers, and like MMA fighters because like it's very real at points. Also,
For
there's like this
sure.
whole artistic element to it. Also, a lot of it isn't real.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There are some times where, the dick hits and you're just like, okay, I get it now.
That's what I love most about shooting BDSM because as much as it's a setup and oh, we're performing, there's a point where it becomes fucking real for both people in the
Yes,
scene.
yes, yes,
That's what I
yes,
love
yes,
the most
yes,
about, I think,
yes.
particularly lesbian BDSM.
Mm, for sure. For sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, one of the realest scenes I shot was a BDSM type scene with Roxy Moth. It
Oh,
like
she's amazing. She's actually
Yeah.
been on the pod.
Oh, good. Yeah, that I did not really act much during that one. That was just me getting through the scene.
I think that's the
um,
best thing about shooting like BDSM
yeah.
is like if you're freaking out in the scene, you're like, I want that on camera, you know?
Oh,
Because
well,
then it's
yeah.
your actual fear or whatever in the scene.
I wouldn't say it was a bad scene at all. It was just, I was shibari'd up and getting face fucked, and it takes endurance. It's that athlete mentality kicking in.
So, did you just like move out to Vegas with the intention of doing porn, or did you do like a few shoots first and go back to St. Louis, or
No, no, no. I came to Vegas with the intention of doing porn. At the beginning of the interview, you mentioned that the average is 2 years. When
Mhm.
I was talking about starting, a friend of ours who's a producer said that the average was 6 months. And I remember at that point, I was like, 6 months, that's nothing. Anybody can make it 6 months. And I started, and 6 months came by, I was like, damn, this sucks. But like 6 months, I made it,
Yeah.
And then at a year, I was like, okay, I made it another 6 months. Like now things are really working. I'm hitting my stride. Shit's awesome. Whew. And then the next 6 months happened.
What happened those next 6 months?
Oh gosh. I just like I think what happened was I shot too much too quickly.
Mm.
And so like I was trying to continuously like refine my filming, refine my, my lighting, my sound, my scene, all of it. And I was out shooting my editing. And so I was constantly editing these videos that I felt weren't as good as what I was currently filming. But I still have to release the footage, like I can't make money unless I release the footage. So I have to release the stuff that's not quite as good in my eyes. I kind of just got burned out releasing what I felt was subpar quality work. But now I'm working through backlogs, trying to release new stuff at the same time and kind of balancing it out.
So do you edit all of your own work?
Typically, yes. I have
Wow.
I have hired editors in the past to help me get out some of my bigger stuff. But typically I do it all.
Wow.
I do my own marketing, I do my own editing. Obviously performances are me.
It'd be very funny if you're like, I don't do my own performances.
No,
but...
I have a stunt person. Yeah. She comes in, throws on a blonde wig and rides the dick for me.
Yeah, it's fine. No one will know.
No.
Wow. So you're really involved in like the whole creative process. So is most of your stuff content trade that you do, or do you do a lot of studio work?
Well, I've definitely done a lot more content trade than studio, and not for a lack of trying. Studios just aren't as prevalent anymore, I don't think.
For sure. Yeah, when I first joined the industry, it was all studios. Like if you wanted to be a porn star, you had to essentially be like, okay, I need this one guy at this company to like me.
Yeah. That's what I kind of expected it to be. But then having actually done it, no, it's not the case at all.
Great. Yeah, I think it shifted so much. And I think that's so good because I think performers now have the power. And I think that's kind of why so much transphobic stuff fell off so fast, was because it's not controlled by these like 3 companies anymore who are like, you can only shoot this sort of stuff and we're only gonna market you with these terms.
It's I think a lot of that comes from like COVID and the rise of OnlyFans and lot of solo performers.
I like how we have your dog going on in the background. It sounds like there's a BDSM scene or something happening. Oh, that's funny. Totally no problem at all. We've had multiple pets come on. We've had someone's mom come on the podcast before. So it's no problem at all. But yeah, I think a lot of things like that your average iPhone can now shoot as high of quality as a DSLR camera, that you can shoot an entire movie on an iPhone and the audience isn't going to know. Also, I think it's like these studios just don't have the power anymore that they used to. Okay, we're gonna stop a sec. Okay, we're back. Had to handle some dog duties. Totally fine. Not the first on the pod. We've had a lot of cats in the background. Someone's mom came on the podcast before, which was an interesting experience.
Oh my God.
So yeah, we were talking about just kind of like how much it has changed. And I have to imagine it has to be very interesting to come into this industry where it's now, if you want to be a porn star, you kind of move to Vegas and you can kind of make it happen on your own.
Yeah, and a lot of times when I'm talking to newer performers, I'm not advocating so much for them to move to Vegas, but to spend more time shooting themselves, shooting
Hmm.
content trade, because I mean, for one, there's a ton of money to be made on OnlyFans.
Yep.
You don't get to the top 1%, top 10%, whatever your goal is, by filming for studios, because that
Hmm.
content can't go there.
Yep.
You're filming yourself, or you're filming yourself and your friends, or you and your partner. Studios have nothing to do with that.
Nope. Nothing.
And so with the rise of OnlyFans, a lot of performers have made their money by themselves. And it's taken
Yeah.
a lot of power away from the studios. I don't think OnlyFans is a great thing, but I like the power dynamic.
Yeah. I think there's a
Being
few sites. Like, I think minivids is also one, which really opens it up to, you don't have to be in LA or Vegas anymore.
right. Yeah, minivids was my main platform when I began. And it allowed me to sell both hardcore and fetish.
Hmm.
Um, it honestly didn't matter who I was filming with, because the videos would just sell.
Yeah.
Minivids had great traffic, and I mean they're fucking that up now, but
Yeah, I was gonna bring up, I'm like, I really like the company as a whole, but I'm like, it's kind of fallen off lately. I don't necessarily know why.
I I think that they're maybe trying to put too much effort into camming, because it seems like they've weighted their algorithms to promote cam performers. And so cam performers will go live on minivids
Hmm.
and then also sell either those recordings or clips
Yep.
on their clip store, and they'll kind of get both sides the full use of minivids, and so they're promoted in the algorithm. Whereas someone like me, who's a clip producer but not a cam star, I'm only getting half. And so like I used to be ranked in the minivids rankings much higher
Hmm.
than I am now. And I can only guess it's because I do not cam.
As someone who cams on minivids, it's also gone down on camming.
Really?
Like, I make more money on other cam sites now than minivids, which it
Wow.
used to be the other way. So I don't know. I feel like sites just kind of go through cycles where they're the new site that everyone's stoked about. Excuse me. There are some things I do love about minivids, like that they don't care if you give out your payment information on other stuff. Like if you're like, oh, hit me up with my Venmo, they
Yeah.
don't give a fuck. I
Yeah.
do genuinely like that there is a site that's like, make your money. We don't give a fuck. Because so many other campsites are like, if you mention any other site,
Yeah.
we're gonna suspend your account and go after you and do all this
Yeah.
crazy shit. So I've always like appreciated that with them. And their payouts way higher than any other sites, like 80%.
Yeah. Yeah. The minivids payout is a lot better than some sites. And I do still make quite a bit of money there. Like I'm not gonna say it's not worth trying, but goddamn.
Yeah. I feel like it's most of the people I talk to on this podcast now are in smaller cities across the states or smaller cities in Europe, where if you're making decent money camming or producing content or whatever, it goes a lot further in the Midwest than it does in California or even Vegas.
I would, I mean, from where I'm sitting, if you can make something that looks good, has high quality content and like sounds good, but you're in the middle of Kansas, like that's more impressive to me than you doing
Yeah.
that in Vegas or LA, because like I'm obviously influenced by the people around me.
Hmm.
But when you're in Kansas, it's just you.
Yeah.
It's you putting in the work, you putting in the effort to learn and put it all together into use. So like that to me is a bit more impressive for sure, because too, like when you're filming by yourself, it's hard to not be repetitive.
Yeah.
And so I think it takes a lot more effort to be a solo creator than it does to, be where I am.
Yeah, I think it's like a good thing to build up your base of just being like, I'm gonna start doing solo content and then working up to being like, okay, maybe I'm gonna start camming, then I can start doing content trade. I think that's like a really good basis for building a career. I'm not just saying that because that's how I did it, but like I just feel
No,
like it builds a base where it's not like, oh my God, if this one site won't work with me or whatever, I'm fucked. I just think
yeah.
it builds up a really good base and like really organically builds your career and really prepares you how to handle all this stuff.
I recently worked with a performer who essentially did that and was like, it was, they were a solo performer only for like the first year or two,
Mm-hmm.
and then moved to Vegas and started doing like studio stuff. And they've blown up much faster than, like I did, because I think people saw their value as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, it was okay. She's blonde. She's got an athletic build, long legs,
Mm-hmm.
big dick. Okay, we can work with that. I don't know what her name is. It doesn't matter. Cassie Cummings. We're gonna we're gonna book her, and and so that's kind of how it went for me. But like for this other performer, like they showed up in Vegas and they were like, "Oh, I've seen you before.
Mm-hmm.
You're bringing a huge fan base. Let's put you in this type of scene. Let's bring your fans in. Let's get them, something different."
Yeah.
And so like I'm working to stand out later, and it's tougher than they were, because they stood out on their own before showing up for studio scenes, and I think that's really worked out for them. And yeah, if you can make that work, yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah. I think it's just organic and then you're not. I think a lot of people sometimes get thrown into this industry and they don't know what to expect and they don't
Yeah.
have the maybe like mental preparation to handle these hard situations where you might have to shoot at 2 a.m. because whatever someone's flight was late or whatever, and you've been on set for 10 hours a day. Like there's gonna
Yeah.
be times in this industry where you're gonna be in uncomfortable situations. It's
Hmm.
not anyone's direct fault, but
Yeah.
the entertainment industry, there's a lot of moving parts. There's always
Yeah.
gonna be something that goes wrong.
But I had a call time of 7 a.m. once, and that was terrible.
That shit sucks. I
I
hate shooting
wanted to
porn in the
die. That was
morning.
terrible. Um, no, you're right. But okay, so let me ask you: when you came into the industry,
Yeah.
was there someone to give you like a how to be a porn star pamphlet or a DVD?
Not a DVD. I was very lucky. I don't know how much you know about like the queer porn scene in the Bay Area.
Only slightly.
Okay, so like when I moved here, it was like the peak of that. So I
Mm-hmm.
got hired by kink.com as a cam performer. So I was working on the
Mm-hmm.
armory like 4 or 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing that, but then there's a whole queer porn scene here that existed with Crash Pad and Trouble Films. So when I was working with all of that, it was very much, oh, there's other queer trans women here who have done this stuff, like Drew DeVoe and Toby Hillmeyer.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started doing it and people like were like, oh, she's gonna be here for a second, both of them really were like, okay, this is the shit you're gonna deal with. You're gonna deal with turf shit, you're gonna deal with
Yeah.
this, you're gonna deal with
Yeah.
that. So I think that really set me up well. Also with queer porn, it's definitely more open to be like, you don't have to do this action or this action. It was like, what do you want to do that is going to be enjoyable for you and actually,
Okay.
doing something like that. So I was doing that at the same time as I got thrown into mainstream trans porn, which was like, you need to do exactly this, this, and this. And here, take this pill if you can't get hard right now. And then
Yeah.
they don't tell you what the pill is.
No.
And ultimately I did another recreational drug afterwards. And then I had an
Oh
overdose
no.
experience because
Oh
of it,
no.
because I didn't realize it was a blood thinner.
Oh Jesus.
That was the first time I ever went to LA.
Oh God.
So it was like 3 months after moving here. And then I was like, okay, I need to not be involved with this kind of porn and not do any more drugs.
Yeah.
So it really made me be responsible very, very fast, which I feel is like the classic Midwestern girl story, moving to California. First time in LA, I was there for like 24 hours at the
Yeah.
time and then had that experience and being like, okay, I need to not.
Yeah. Well, so the reason I asked is because I've gotten into I'm involved with PASS,
Yeah.
which is the oversight nonprofit that regulates our testing protocols within the
Mhm.
industry. And um, recently we've been talking a lot about you know, swabbing and keeping yourself
Mhm.
safe, knowing your status so you can keep your co-performers safe.
Mhm.
And a lot of folks who have been in the industry longer have talked about how when they joined, like FSC
Yeah.
or other organizations like that would be like, hey, welcome to the industry. Here's your how to be a porn star
I did not get any how to
information.
be a porn star at all.
I,
I
I just,
definitely
I
did
think that's
not.
wild because like I didn't get anything like that. I showed up and I did what they told me to do. And like, and that was it. You know, I didn't know what was right or wrong. I didn't know what I should expect or should say no to.
Yeah, not at all. I was felt like I was just obviously on like the queer porn sets. Those are so chill. There's nothing really, especially early in my career, that I was ever like, oh my God, I feel uncomfortable. But on the mainstream sets, 100%, where it's
Yeah.
just like extremely uncomfortable. And it's like, you
Yeah.
need to come in the next 10 minutes or we have issues. And it's just
Yeah.
like, it's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure to put on someone it's their first time on or second time on any porn set ever.
I want to know what was on the How to Be a Porn Star DVD. I want to see, I
It
want
was
to
a
find one.
DVD.
Yeah, supposedly some folks got a DVD.
Oh
And
my
I want to know
God.
what was on it and who was producing this, what they said.
I imagine some of the people who were on it are probably canceled now. I bet it's like how to be a porn star. Here's Ron Jeremy or someone like that. Whereas like you're not allowed to be in porn
Oh
anymore.
no. Oh wow. You're probably right. You're probably right.
Yeah. Um
Oh my God.
I feel like now like porn has transformed so much in a way. I don't know if it's just like the overall culture, but like that there's actually talk about mental health now.
Quite a
It's
bit.
so
Yeah.
different. Like at
Yeah.
AVN, at I went to the Why Not Cam Awards this year and everything was mental health and it was all like so
Hmm.
positive. Even being like, you know, even if you don't win, you're in the top 5 at what you do in the world. That's fucking crazy. And it's like before it was not that. It was everyone all or nothing. And you're seeing girls have anxiety attacks and like attack other girls from on stage and like just all this really crazy cutthroat shit that
I have heard the stories, but yeah, it is, you know, you got Cupcake Girls and Pineapple Support,
uh-huh,
FSC, you know, yeah, you got all these organizations pushing mental health and like personal wellness as we do this. And I think that that's really great because a lot of times folks fall into like drug addiction in order to keep going,
for sure.
or they push themselves through like to burnout and then through the burnout
Yeah,
and they
that
just
was
end up a
definitely
little
me.
husk afterwards, you know?
Yeah, I definitely fell into that thing of like, oh, I'm depressed, but I'm an artist, so I need to put it all back into my art. And
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it got me some awards, it got me some nominations
There
and
you
shit and a
go.
few good movies, but ultimately when the pandemic hit, I'm like, fuck, I need to handle this shit because I'm really depressed and I can't focus on work right now.
Right. And that was the worst. That's probably the worst time to have been in that situation and to not have any support.
Yeah.
So I am definitely glad that these organizations are stepping up to address that because you're not just a performer, right? Like
Hmm.
you are running your own individual business. Like I said, like I do my own filming, I do my own editing, I do my own
Yeah.
marketing. Like I don't have a background in performance or filmmaking or in marketing. You
You
know,
didn't get the
like
DVD.
no,
You
I
didn't
did
get
I
the
didn't
How
I
to
didn't
Be a
get the
Porn
How to Be
Star
a Porn Star
DVD.
DVD. I don't
I
know
can't
these
believe that
things.
exists. That shit's so fucking crazy to me.
So you know, like I've had to learn how to do all these different things and then do them all at the same time. And I'm
Yeah.
not the only one. You're doing it.
Yeah.
1,000 other girls are doing it
Basically
just
everyone's
like
doing it.
us. And then you've got the cis performers who are doing it on a bigger scale outside of us. And like you are running your own business. You're not just performing. And I
Hmm.
think that having that the mental health support and like the physical wellness support and like understanding that this is a business, you got to slow down, you got to take care of yourself, and this is a long-term thing that you could be doing. is really important, because if you just burn yourself out and what are you going to do after that?
Yeah, then you're not like, it just doesn't work out. I mean, that's why there's so many girls who leave after 6 months or after a year or after
Yeah.
2 years. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like the pandemic cleared out so many people in this industry who, like, even now, I think the only other trans woman I can think of who started the same time as me is Aubrey Kate. It's the only one left. Everyone else is just gone.
I'll tell you, so I started 3 years ago, and I'm thinking about the girls who came in, like, essentially in my graduating class, like, there's less than 5 of us,
Yeah.
like, it's, you come in, see if you can handle it, and then if you can't, you're out.
The only other like field I ever hear like this is like the NFL, where it's like, yeah, you have 3 years and then there's like 5 people left. Ugh.
Wow. What a
It's kind of
comparison.
true in a way, though. It's crazy when you really start to think about it. And yeah, that's where I really I do stuff for Outsports. So I obviously see comparisons between sex work and sports, where it's this way for so many people as an opportunity out of bad environments, or,
For sure.
especially being trans or gay in the Midwest, where like you don't have that many options. Or even being from Michigan, most of my friends, like, to get any sort of job there is very difficult because there's just
Sure.
not much jobs there.
Mm.
So like, if it wasn't for sex work, I have no idea what I'd be doing.
My background is avionics, so like I could go work for another airline, but
Oh, really?
I used to work on Boeing 707s.
Oh shit, my whole family's in aviation.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't want to work on airplanes anymore.
Yeah, I was always like, I thought about becoming a pilot when I was younger, and then my dad and grandpa is like, you're just being a bus driver for either an airline, or you're gonna be a chauffeur for some rich person and have to sit in boring ass locations for no reason. I'm like, maybe I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I did airline work for about 11 years, and I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And so, when COVID came around and I ended up not working anymore, I was genuinely okay with that.
So, do you just shoot in Vegas, or have you kind of traveled anywhere to shoot at all, or has it been pretty located
No,
just at home?
I've been fortunate to have done all of my filming here in Vegas.
Wow.
So many people just come through here to do
Yeah.
tours that I am in no shortage of talent.
I feel that I'm going there tomorrow. So
Well, so there you go.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, and that's the second time I've been in Vegas this year. So
wow.
Yeah, it's so weird how that's now the hub of porn. When I first started, it was still all LA. Like Vegas was still the secondary city where people are like, why is AVN even here? And now it's really everyone's in Vegas, everyone's shooting all the time. And just like what AVN is now is everyone shooting content trade back at their hotel or whatever venue they have.
Yeah.
Which when I first went, everyone's on the floor trying to smooge up to whatever boss and try to get work. So it's just so different now.
Yeah. I was just thinking the other day, like, why are the T's in LA? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's just so different how it was before. But I think that you're also joining the industry at a very good time where, being trans isn't that much of a limiting factor anymore. Well, especially if you're a white cis passing girl,
right?
You're kind of given a pass to do whatever.
And blonde. Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely benefited from like my overall presentation. But that, like, kind of what we talked about, like, it's kind of limiting though, because like, maybe I want more tattoos, or maybe I want to color my hair, or like, there's just pressure not to. And for performers who aren't white, skinny, blonde, they are still facing an uphill battle. Black trans women, trans men of any denomination, plus size trans performers.
I mean, even just like cis Black performers like that. Kira Noir was the first ever performer of the year, and it's the 40th year of AVN, where it's like
fucking wild.
There probably should have been a few more before that.
I
Like,
mean, but there's a reason why hashtag AVN so white continually trended every year.
yeah, I mean, I think this industry has a long way to go, especially with regards to race, and especially seeing how far transha has come just in the 10 years I've been here, where it was still sponsored by shemale.com, or it was called the Tranny Awards, and like all this
Yeah.
really problematic, fucked up shit that I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck industry am I entering into? But I
Oh
think
my
there's
God.
also great things about, like, there's 40 years of sex work documented at AVN. Like 40
That's true.
years of everyone who has been essentially a relevant performer. There's documentation of them, which I think is really amazing. There's been more AVN awards than there have been Olympics, which is fucking crazy. Right? And there's been less awards given. So like that's crazy to think about that, but at the same time there's so many things that need to be better, like
Yes.
AVN on race.
Yeah.
Gender stuff is getting better, but
Mm-hmm.
there's still a long way to go. Like I don't know what's going to happen someday when there's a trans woman up for a female performer of the year. Is
Oh
that going
God.
to be a thing they're going to allow? Is that going to be the thing that causes the controversy? Because eventually you would imagine it's going to happen.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think you're right. I think having a trans performer up for performer of the year is going to cause an issue. Um,
Maybe.
I mean, there are problems with gender at the AVNs this year. I mean, that like there were queer performers up for categories that didn't match their presentations.
Yeah.
Like Cam Damage was up, not in the trans mask categories, but in trans women categories.
Yeah. Isn't there? Yeah, for trans performer of the year, I think it's usually open to both. I think only one trans guy's ever won it.
Yeah, I'd have to look at what exact. I don't think it was trans performer of the year.
Oh, I don't
Um,
even. I know they've like expanded the trans categories, which I think is really great. I
yeah,
think like when everyone in like the sports world is like, why don't we create own leagues for trans people? I think it's inclusion plus that though. I think you need inclusion so trans people can get nominated for best BDSM or best whatever, or whatever
yeah.
other awards, or best lesbian performer or all of that. But I think it's also plus that they added like best trans newcomer. I think you have to do both if you really want it to be a more inclusive industry, because that's how you get like 20% of the people that are being trans. And like, you just don't see that anywhere else in society, truly.
I mean, certainly, if let's say I have the best year of my life, I'm filming these banger scenes
Mm-hmm.
every month. Why shouldn't I be up for female performer of the year and
Yeah.
trans performer of the year?
Yeah.
If I truly have the best in the business performance this year, why not put me against cis performers?
I think this conversation is going to happen in the next 5 years. I think it's going to seriously start happening
In the next 5 years, I
where
could see that.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially if it's like a post-op trans woman. What do you do in that situation? Like,
Oh my God.
I guess we haven't had an out post-op trans woman who's been very dominant and just like very, like having one of the greatest years of all time in porn. Like once that happens, it's gonna really raise a lot of stuff, because even I mean, I'm assuming there's probably some post-op trans women who are completely stealth in porn who we don't know. And
Good for
just in
them.
society in general, you know?
Good for them. Yeah, because I do know of post-op trans women that still perform, but they do so in almost like it's not their main thing. Like the biggest name I'm thinking of, she's also modeling, like doing
Mhm.
Fashion Week stuff. Like obviously Fashion Week is much bigger than AVNs. Like, or at least to me it is. I would put Fashion Week above AVNs as far as like mainstream appeal goes, but um
Yeah, it makes me wonder, like,
I just don't know. Yeah.
what if someone like an Aubrey Kate was like, I'm being a pussy and I'm starting to do like DP porn and just kills it? Like, that's what makes me wonder. I'm like, is there going to be a point where someone like that is going to cross over? Because It's fucked up to
Mm.
say, but I still feel like the porn definition of trans is still just a woman with a penis,
Yeah,
honestly.
it
Yeah.
it really is, and you can definitely see that in action when we're discussing trans mask porn.
Hmm.
So many people forget that trans men exist when it comes to porn for some
Hmm.
reason. I see Trip Richards talking about it all the time about how he can't post his stuff in like gay sites because then they're like, well, no, you're trans, you have to be in the trans categories, but then it's nothing but trans women. And he's like,
Yeah.
okay, but I'm a big hairy guy and I am making porn for men who are into dudes. Sounds kind of gay to me.
Yeah, I feel like there's always like the one trans guy at a time who can be nominated for best trans performer. Like you never see two or three at the same time. It's always like you're the one representative.
I see that changing too. I mean, Austin Spears won a major GAVN
Hmm.
award
Yeah.
at this last AVNs. Apollo Moon is constantly up for awards. Trip Richards is a big name.
Hmm.
And they're doing things that a year or two ago just were unheard of, and even now they're pushing the boundaries. I love these guys. Like they're brand new and just they're coming and swinging, and I love it.
Yeah, it gives me like just seeing that many trans performers and kind of the feedback that I saw on Twitter from all like the transphobic microaggressions and shit that happened at the awards.
Yeah.
Where in one way I feel old, where I'm like, back in my day, it was still the tranny awards and we
Sure.
were just allowed on stage for the first time and shit. Where I feel like so old, but I'm like, hell yeah, like that's where it needs to go. It needs to be this next generation who, you know, hasn't had all these labels thrown on them immediately when they join the industry to
Exactly.
really push back and push it further than where it is now.
I'm just trying to leave it better than it was when I came in. It like
That's all you
I'm
can
trying
do.
not to engage in like the BBC type
Yeah, that
marketing
shit's
that apparently gets
fucked.
tossed on us. I hate that. So like I'm trying to show that hey, you don't have to do that. You don't need to do
Mm-hmm.
race play to be a successful trans performer. Like just film with whoever you want to film with and call it a dick.
Yep, that's all it is. There's gonna be so many people who have their careers destroyed by that in 5 years when they
I
look back and there's gonna be
yeah,
like, what the fuck were you doing?
yeah. But like it has been tried to be pushed on me. I've never allowed myself to market my content in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I'm going to continue doing that, and it's possible. It is possible to not do the things that you're told you have to do to succeed. It's possible to do your own thing, to stick to your own morals and still be
Yep.
successful.
Yeah, I feel like that's even more so now because this next generation of trans performers who are coming up now, they're going to be the ones who influences the shape of porn. And I feel like there was so long that any guy who had a camera was like, I know what porn's supposed to be. And
Yeah.
now it's not that. It's now
Mm-mm.
about the performers. And even like these big name directors now, they're more for the performers. Like obviously Caden Cross was a performer.
Yeah.
And I think really has set the precedent for what you can do as a performer, where you can be a director someday and continue performing and do everything in a way that you want to do it. But even other directors like Ricky Greenwood, it's not, oh, I know the secrets of porn. It's, oh, I want to create really like real films out of it
Yes.
instead of before. So I think that just
Yes.
gives me so much hope for it. So I've had such a great time chatting with you. I have two more questions for you.
Yeah.
So you're 3 years into your career,
Mm-hmm.
little over like the average porn career now. What do you still want to do in your career that you haven't so far?
Ooh. Okay. I would really, really enjoy being in, um, like you said, like like a feature film in a
Yeah.
way. Like Ricky Greenwood won at the AVNs this year
Yep.
for uh fuck, what was the
Grinders.
no,
Grinders.
it wasn't Grinders, it was
Oh,
the
it
other
wasn't?
one. The one with Tommy
Oh.
Pistol and the Demon Girl.
Uh, oh, the devil and
Yeah.
Why am I Georgia something maybe?
What is it called? The Bargain.
Yeah.
It's called The Bargain.
Yeah.
I want to do a film like that because, like, holy crap. The Bargain. It was Tommy Pistol and I'm gonna look up her name because Ashley Lane.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ashley Lane is head to toe makeup.
Yeah.
She is wearing, like this black, like textured skin, horns, like the eyes, the fangs, all of it, unrecognizable in this thing. It still wins an award.
Hell yeah.
It is, theatrical. It is moody. There's like a storyline to it. Obviously, quite a bit of comedy still. I just don't think Tommy Pistol can perform without making a joke.
He's the Paul Rudd of porn. I genuinely believe that, where he's like everyone likes him, but he's also like funny. And
I want to make a movie like that where it isn't just fucking. Like there's a story to it, there's a feature, there's like more to it. I want to do something like that, either as a producer or as an actor. I want to do that. That is something I still aspire to.
Yeah, we are strong Ricky Greenwood supporting podcast. So I'm like, I wish he performed in one scene so I could have him on the podcast, but I'm like, it's too bad.
It's too bad.
Yeah, I think you would kill it in that. So
thank you.
I have one final question. This is my only like kind of BuzzFeed bullshit question.
Okay.
Let's say you wake up tomorrow and one thing could magically change in porn. What would you have it be?
One thing magically change in porn. I would hope to wake up tomorrow and see that trans performers are paid higher rates
than cis performers.
Look, all right, I clean out for anal, right? That's work. That's fucking work. That
you can't eat all day.
It takes toll on my body. I gotta change my diet. I gotta, this shit's hard work. I can't just show up and get my pussy fucked. I don't have one. So I gotta do my anal preps. And so I feel like I am owed at least what my vagina owning female co-stars are being paid. But then more so than that, like, why do I make more money than a Black trans woman? Right? I'm blonde, skinny, and white. Like, there's at least 5 others of me at my performance level, and at least a dozen more above me. But how many Black trans performers can you really name? Like
that are winning awards, being up for the top awards. Like, it's a very small list. It's really fucked up.
So why don't they make more money? Because like they're more of a commodity than I am. So I would say pay rates. I would want to wake up tomorrow and pay rates be more equitable, because it's absurd the way it's done now.
Yeah, I mean, porn really needs to. I think it has in a lot of ways had a racial reckoning, but I think it needs to continue. Like, I think there's so many Black performers who are continuously pushing it, which is beyond needed. And especially seeing how much shit has changed for trans people in porn, I believe that's like the next place where porn really needs to go.
Yes.
Because you can't, like, Kiara Noir, I think, is one of the most talented performers of our generation. She's amazing, really rad person, but she shouldn't be the first ever. Like, this should have happened 20 years ago in the 90s or,
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's like the really hard thing, but I think being able to be there for that moment, that's probably one of my favorite event moments of all time.
That was incredibly cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Where can everyone find you on socials?
Oh, well, on socials, mainly I'm just on Twitter, to be honest. It's at Cass Cummings XXX. You can also find me at CassieCummings.com or CassieCummings.fans.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I had such a good time chatting with you and just kind of getting a perspective on like this next generation of trans porn, because I feel like an old lady now in porn because I've been in it for so long where I'm just like, you know what happened 8 years ago. Well, thank you so much.
Of course, yeah. I'm super happy to have been here today, and I'm happy to come back.
Okay, bye everyone.